What's the day-to-day going to be like psychologically? Where is he going to be? Helping us to answer this question, clinical and forensic psychologist Dr. Gary Brucato, and also joining us, Sam Mangel, federal white-collar advisor and sentencing mitigation expert. Sam, let me start with you. What do you think life is going to be like behind bars for this notorious killer, mass murderer?
So I can sum it up in 2 words: pure hell. I often, probably 98% of my clients are white-collar offenders. And the first question they ask is, am I going to be safe? Am I going to be okay? Can my family come and visit? And my answer is, don't worry. It's not like what you see on TV. It's not like Oz, Shawshank Redemption, even Orange is the New Black for female offenders. Well, for this young man, it is going to be exactly like that. And for those who say that he's getting off easy by not facing the jury and possibly getting the death penalty, it would not surprise me that at some point, probably sooner than later, he wishes that his life would be over because of the situation he's in. And if he goes to a facility like Idaho maximum security, he will not be a high-profile individual like you might see on television now in the federal system with a Mangione or a Combs. There are going to be inmates there who have daughters or sons that were the age of these children that were murdered. And in comes a relatively thin young white man, well-educated, and he's going to stand out like a sore thumb. And every day of his life, he's going to be extorted. He's going to possibly be in danger. And the alternative is to go into some sort of protective custody or solitary confinement, which even then is a terrible existence. And I'm sure, as any clinical psychologist will tell you, not being in general population and being in a secluded environment like that can easily drive someone to the point of suicide or it's a very dangerous situation.
Dr. Gary Brucato, what are your thoughts about what life will be like for him in prison and what his mindset will be? Will he enjoy anything? What do you think will happen here?
Well, first of all, one of the things that puzzled me about the deal that was made is that Kohberger is somebody who, as I understand it, a board-certified neuropsychologist, was diagnosed with autism, which would have, under Atkins, made a pretty good argument for the death penalty being taken off the table in the state of Idaho anyway. So that it was odd to me, certainly not a guarantee, but it's interesting to me that an attempt wasn't made to try to get away with the offense, and then if it didn't work out, to try to say, I can't be executed for that reason. I think the autism diagnosis will also serve him well as somebody who does mitigation cases in my own forensic practice. I think it may also do him some service in the sense that an argument could be made that to have him in the general population in a overstimulating environment, an unpredictable environment, so forth, could be bad for his mental health. Whether you believe the diagnosis or not is another question. I have not examined him. But if he does indeed have that diagnosis and the argument is made that that mitigation is necessary, he may theoretically wind up in a more isolated situation. I think that if he is isolated, it'll be a much more pleasurable existence than people realize, beyond the awful things that Sam's mentioning, because what you have is an individual who, I've always said, kept 2 victims alive and killed 4, partly because he saw himself as a kind of arbiter of who lives and dies, kind of like a godlike figure. And in the end, he let himself live. The way he arbitrated is that he gets off the hook, gets to, from death. And I think that what'll happen now is having the opportunity to be a kind of center of attention figure. Even though it may be painful, there'll be that sort of extra element. And I'm picturing a kind of Dennis Rader-like situation, a little more isolated, letters, autographs, admitting it, because if you have somebody who's living a double life, as he was, there's a strange relief in the mask coming off and being able to say, you know what? this is the Grim Reaper figure that I actually am, and I'm proud of it. Let me just tell you how I did it. Let me help the scientists and talk about, myself. And I think you're going to have a lot of that. And I think that's what's so sickening about the way this sort of seems to have turned out.
Sam, we have about a minute left here. On a more practical level, my understanding is that he was, or maybe still is, a vegan. How about that? The vegan diet and the practicalities of what that'll be like for the rest of his life. Do they have nice offerings?
So both the federal and state prison systems are tremendously underfunded. Will they have tofu for him to eat? Sure, he might get tofu. Will they have rice? He might get rice. And on commissary, he might be able to buy, certain things if they're not taken from him from other inmates. But he certainly will not have a salad bar with fresh vegetables or pizza being brought into him. It is a miserable existence, even if he is put into a more psych-oriented ward in that facility. And I've had clients that are in psych wards in both state and federal facilities. And when they're not around other inmates, the lack of social stimulation is a horrible, horrible thing for them to go through. And chances are he won't have access to family for quite some time. He's not going to have, in my opinion, fans that are reaching out to him.
We're out of time, but Sam, everything you're saying, a lot of the viewers are happy to hear tonight. And we appreciate your insight. Dr. Gary Brucato, thank you as well. Sam Mangel, appreciate it.